Hi, this is Rosalinda, and welcome again to Viewpoint. We're coming to you from Salish Community College at KSKC TV Studios. And with me today is Heidi Sanders from DOVES. Heidi, welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. I just met you and I just really like you already. Well, we're going to be talking about domestic violence today and the organization called DOVES, which serves a good part of the Flathead community here. Can you tell us what DOVES is, what it means?
Sure. Well, in the literal sense, it's an acronym. DOVES stands for Domestic Violence Education and Services. And we're the domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking prevention nonprofit here based in Lake County. So we serve Lake County and then the Flathead Indian Reservation as well.
And so this is such an important organization, as many organizations are, but I really appreciate all the work that you all do regarding this because it's so needed. And so can you let our audience know where you're located, your office hours, the best way to contact you?
Sure. So we're located in Polson. If people are familiar with the town, we're located in the Grandview Clinic, which is just west of St. Joe's Medical Center. We have walk-in hours from 9 o'clock until 1, Monday through Friday, and then in the afternoons by appointment. It's usually best if people can give us a call at 883-3350 before stopping by. That way we can make sure that somebody is there to give them undivided attention. However, we understand that sometimes scheduling is not possible, so people are welcome to stop by.
And your title with DOVES is advocate.
I am, yes.
And so what does that mean as being an advocate for DOVES?
It can mean a lot of things. I feel like I wear a lot of different hats each day. Provide crisis intervention for maybe people who are just coming in, who need a sympathetic, knowledgeable ear. I can provide that for them. Sometimes I act as a liaison between clients and let's say they're trying to sign up for social services in town and maybe they have literacy issues or they just don't know who to call, they don't know who to talk to, they don't know the words to use to get the services they need. I can help them with that. So a lot of different things,
That's great. What services do you provide then with this organization, and what is your clientele?
Well, like I said, we serve anybody in Lake County or on the Flathead Indian Reservation who is a victim of sexual assault, intimate partner violence or domestic violence, and stalking. So pretty wide range. DOVES has a lot of services. We have an ongoing women's support group that meets on Tuesday nights. That provides therapeutic care for women and their children for whatever stage they are in, either currently in an abusive relationship, having left an abusive relationship recently, or maybe years later. So anywhere they are, we can provide support for them. We have limited financial assistance if people need help maybe with food or diapers. Sometimes we do have rent money available. Unfortunately, we are grant funded, so sometimes we're kind of at the mercy of funding. So promises can't be made, but I encourage people to give us a call and ask.
Absolutely. This is such an important topic, and the work that you all do it touches a lot of people, and so many people think of this subject as a taboo almost, as to like when it happens, because it's so traumatic for families, so traumatic for children as well. Can you describe to our viewers what domestic violence is?
I guess most simplistically, the way to look at domestic violence is like a pattern of coercive behavior that's meant to control another person in the relationship. And it can be a lot of things. I think people really focus on physical violence when it comes to DV, and there's so much more to it. I mean, there's emotional violence, there can be sexual violence, financial abuse, there can be intimidation, isolation, using children as a bargaining chip, someone saying, if you leave me, you're never going to see your children again. And that's a very powerful reason why people stay in abusive relationships.
Let me ask you this. Are there warning signs that people should be looking at, or is there warning signs that you yourself as a person who may be a victim need to know about? Can you explain
I think so. I think fast involvement, a relationship that gets really serious really quickly should always kind of raise a flag for someone. Not to say that there's not these great romances, that happen quickly and that we all need,
Right,
I'm not saying that at
right.
all, but fast involvement, really intense jealousy. I think people, especially young people who are getting into their first relationships, think that jealousy comes from a really flattering place. They like me so much. They want to know where I am all the time, and that can feel really good. But it comes from a place of insecurity. It's not normal. It's not healthy to have a partner who controls who you talk to, where you go. I mean, it's not normal. And so jealousy, what else? Fast involvement, checking up on you, that kind of feeds into the jealousy again. Physical violence, a lot of times it doesn't start out with what we think of as typical physical violence, is like punching and slapping, but it can be smaller things like handling you roughly or not respecting your physical boundaries. When you say, I don't want to be touched, to not, no, the cliche is true sometimes, no does mean no. And if you have someone who doesn't respect that, maybe wrestles with you too hard, grabs your upper arms, those are things that can escalate quickly.
Those are really great warning signs. And when we talked about fast relationships, I can't help but to think about teens and teen violence. Do you have any information for our viewers about teen violence and domestic violence?
There was actually a study that came out on Montana teens back in 2009, so, pretty recent, that says about 1 in 10 experience intimate partner violence, that they are harmed deliberately by their dating partner. And that's pretty alarming. That's a pretty high number. And nationwide, young people are more likely to be victimized than are their adult counterparts. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but especially because young people are getting into relationships for the first time. And I think a lot of them don't have healthy role models. A lot of them genuinely don't know what a healthy relationship looks like. And so they have to either depend on peers, or if they have an unhealthy home life, they just don't have a baseline upon which to compare what's going on in their lives.
I did some research on this topic, as I mentioned, and I looked at the CDC website, and they say that 72% of 8th and 9th graders reported this type of violence, this dating violence.
Wow.
And 1 in 4 adolescents report verbal, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse from a dating partner each year.
Wow.
Those are high rates.
Really high.
For teens. And they also went on to say that about 10% of students nationwide report being physically hurt by a boyfriend or girlfriend in the past 12 months. For our young viewers out there, Heidi, do you have advice about when they're dating?
I encourage, again, it sounds like a cliche, but really to trust your instincts. If young people have an idea that this doesn't feel good, this doesn't feel right to me, I would encourage them to absolutely reach out to someone. And sometimes that can't be a parent, or it can't be a teacher, but I am here available, and other people at DOVES and other organizations in the community are available. So I would really encourage them to talk to somebody about it.
And you mentioned something earlier, intimate partner violence. Can you elaborate more on what that is, the definition of that?
Yeah, it's kind of what we talked about, a pattern of coercive behavior meant to control one person. It's kind of the new term that's taking the place of domestic violence. People are tending to use intimate partner violence a little bit more. I think it's a little bit more exact. Domestic violence just sounds like violence that happens within a home. It's, I think, too wide of an umbrella. As we're intimate partner violence, I think better encapsulates what we're actually talking about. This is violence between intimate partners.
I noticed that, and you're right. When I was doing my research on this subject, I noticed that in this new term, at least it was a new term for me, came up several times about intimate partner violence versus domestic violence. And I think it's a good move in changing that wording around. I think it becomes more powerful in my personal view. And who is affected by this?
Everybody. I think sometimes as service providers, we have a tendency to see more low-income clients because they're the ones who don't have any other resources. They have nobody to turn to. But it absolutely happens in every demographic, every socioeconomic station you find domestic or intimate partner violence.
And I'm going to try my best to kind of change my wording into that.
I need to do it too.
It's going to be hard, so you get to be patient with me. But
Likewise.
I'm going to try and support this this new word. What can people do if they think they are in an unhealthy relationship?
Again, goes back to the cliche, I think you should always trust your instincts, and then sometimes it can be really helpful maybe to talk to a professional who works in this field to get an outside view. You know, what I find happens a lot with clients is that all this strange, unhealthy, violent behavior becomes their normal, and so they just don't have the perspective anymore to really be able to step back and really objectively question what's going on to them. But if they have these inklings, it can be really helpful to talk to, you know, a person who is knowledgeable but who isn't intimately involved. And it can be a really good sounding board to say, you know, I'm wondering if this is healthful behavior, and then a person can say, well, with my objective eyes, no, I don't believe it is healthful behavior, and here's why. So I think that would be a very helpful first step.
A different viewpoint in looking at the situation. What can people do if they have friends or family members who are in unhealthy relationships? And this is a hard one.
Super hard.
Because it's so touchy and it's so intimate and personal. How do you handle that?
Well, I think a lot of things happen. You know, isolation is a tool that abusers use. You know, it's very deliberate, and I think in our rural communities it's that much more of an issue because, you know, just spatially we're wide apart and there's fewer people, you know, and so when a victim is isolated, she has nowhere to go, she has no one to turn to. But if she does have family and friends, I think a lot of times they start to feel alienated because they see somebody they care about make what they think are bad decisions over and over and over again, and that can be really hard to watch. So I think family and friends often have a tendency to withdraw, either out of anger or just out of self-preservation, to say, I can't watch you do this anymore. However, I would encourage them, I mean, you always have to protect yourself, but I would encourage family and friends to say, I am here for you though, should you ever need me. So just for that person to be able to have a lifeline can be very helpful. And then if family and friends feel comfortable, maybe pass on some resources of, you know, here's someone in the community that if you don't feel comfortable talking to me, maybe someday you'll want to talk to them. And
no, please,
I was going to say,
ahead.
And even if a loved one who is in an abusive relationship doesn't take you up on the offer the first time, the second time, or the 10th time, at least they know, if I ever need help, this is a person who understands. This is a safe person for me. I might not utilize it now, but maybe sometime in the future I will.
Very good. It's, you know, it's such a touchy subject, and not a lot of people like to talk about it, particularly if they're within their own families and friends. And you mentioned about she and you're talking about women being victims. Are men victims?
Absolutely, men are victims. I think I have a tendency to use feminine pronouns because statistically the vast majority, upwards of 90% of intimate partner violence victims are women. So just in the interest of ease, I tend to use feminine pronouns. However, men absolutely are victims of domestic violence, and that is on our radar. We are aware of it, and, you know, we are here to help men victims as well.
Thank you so much for that information. Heidi, we're going to go for a small break, and we'll be right back with Viewpoint and Heidi Sanders. Thank you.
I fill my mind with knowledge and wisdom. I make decisions without alcohol or drugs. I let go of the things that hold me back. I honor my body by protecting myself 100%.